And once again, let's take a deep breath and let it out with a sigh. Very good. So welcome to this class on being gifted and sensitive, something that I have, and you probably have a lot of information about and wonderings about, even as we get better at understanding our situation as body, spirits, and beings. I want to take a moment to light a candle. And if you have a candle nearby, you're more than welcome to light it with me. I'm going to light this candle for all gifted and sensitive bodies, how we show up in the world in various ways, in wisdom and confusion, in joy and in sorrow, having to manage higher, deeper, wider levels of intensity than the majority of people. And I'm here in this chapel moment to name that and to honor that and to celebrate that with you and to help us get really oriented to our role as teachers in this regard. Helping to name and honor, credential, initiate, and welcome ourselves as gifted and sensitive. So let's take a deep breath together. Lighting the candle of breath. Once again. You might want to shake yourself out a little bit. The great thing about being gifted and sensitive is having a really elegantly wired nervous system. Needs a lot of tending, shaking. Good. And bring your hands into contact with your head. Blessings for the head and the openings, all openings in the head, the ones that we can see and the ones we can't see. The top of the head, the openings through the channels of imagination, hearing, seeing, both within and to the world around us. To the back of the neck, the channels of connection, speech from beyond and through us. Blessings to the heart, the channels of loving wisdom and real connected truth. And out the back of the heart, you can bless the wings, where your wings grow, and sometimes are pinched and clamped. And blessings down into your guts, the will, the courage, the channels of creative presence on the planet, the groin. Blessings down into your legs, all the channels of rooted life, presencing and grounding. Blessings right through your feet and into the earth. And while we're at it, we'll just bless our connection right to the center of the earth. And I like to just take that connection and run my hands up my body, scooping up my connection, all that blessing, all that is blessed, and open that up to the heavens. As I like to say for myself, as a little flower with lots of wonderful medicine and also just as me. Just take a deep breath. So in this session, I'm going to cover some of the high spots, and I really want to recognize each one of you already. Hazel, welcome. I want to recognize each one of you already as a teacher in this regard, and a person that, like me, both continuously struggles and is challenged, but is also deeply wise and taught yourself as mentored. You are one of the 1 in 5, I like to call it the 1 in 5 club. There's studies and statistics that can pretty assuredly tell us now that 1 in 5 of us is sensitive. The highly sensitive person, books written and studies done about people who experience and sense more. So the common word, the word of the day, is more. We are more. We have more. We sense more. More than 4/5 of the population. The situation, though, is a challenging one, because when we sense more, feel more, are more highly attuned, as the planet herself has designed us to be, not all of this 20% will have the opportunity to evolve with a sense of being loved and tutored, met and appreciated. So I have theories about the math of being gifted and sensitive. And my theory is that 1 out of 5 of us, out of that group, maybe another 1 in 5 of those will be able, like if you were in a family system of, 5 people, and one of those is gifted and sensitive, out of that group, that one will probably be weird, and they will probably be treated harshly. They will be probably be treated like there's something wrong, and because 4 of those people will not have the same experience. And so unless that 1 in 5 gets seen and met by somebody in the community, they will very likely struggle and suffer more, and they will turn inward or actually outward to deal with their sensitivities. It will be hard on their body, and it will be hard on the community's body in a lot of ways. So out of that 1 in 5, let's say we have a community body, and maybe there's 25 of those. If somebody is lucky, they are in that 25 being mentored and taught by another person who's made it through, who's been initiated and understands and can help credential them. Many times that doesn't happen, especially in times where we don't really have a collective group body wisdom around sensitivity. So it could be more like 1 in 50 or 1 in 100. That's about the highest capacity, in my opinion, for a gifted and sensitive body, to be ministering or serving. There's many names for our gifts in communities from around the world, and in the packet that I'll be sending you, I've listed some of those names. They're the shamans, the doctors, the medicine people, the healers, and the teachers. I like to call myself a choreo inducer. I found that word in the dictionary when I was investigating, who am I, what do I do? And through movement, I induce wisdom. That. But you just really can't, that's not a good word to brand in our culture, and it's really hard for people to see it. It's like, but I like to know that I actually do have special gifts, and there's a special role. The times that we're in without affirmation and credentialing and proper initiations, I believe we are seeing the results of that in our world, where people have to, through their sensitivity and gifts, turn to violence.
Violence?
Violence.
Violence. Okay, thank you.
If we are not properly seen, mentored, and initiated, and these initiations, for the best of us in the luckiest circumstances, are hard because we already feel so much. So, especially without affirming, mentoring and witness, it's really hard. And you probably know people who, in addition to yourself, that you've met, that you're mentoring, who are stuck or really challenged by their unique ways that their bodies are sensing and living into their world and environment. So I'm hopeful that there could be a movement or that we can name that we're in a movement of people who understand this on the body level and are linked together in perhaps a greater sense of training in our communities, looking for these folks, naming this as a real physical, statistical design in the human species, and to begin to be able to identify this at an early age. Just as we are identifying trans people, you know, why wouldn't we want to identify the most special gifts in our culture? So the basic tools for being gifted and being in your body and sensitive in your body are four main tools just on a day-to-day basis, and many of you practice them. They are to be grounded and to breathe, to feel yourself grounded and breathing, to call back your energy from the field, to keep calling your own energies, because your exquisite sensitivity will take you out into the environment. It will hook you up to all the other bodies, and without knowing how to come back to yourself, we will get overly stimulated and kind of lost in the field. So we need to call our energies back. We need to move our energies. Our energies in our body have to feel that they can continuously move, that we're not trapped with a sensation or experience. Mm-hmm. And we need to find ways of guiding and guarding, blessing and keeping the sensitivity. For this, we especially need communities of witness that testify to our need for care. We need to know, what is my capacity as a gifted and sensitive body, hooked up often to unconditional and very great forces. We still need to come back to the question of, what is my capacity? And then we need to honor and bless that in one another. So when a gifted and sensitive person says, I have to go, or I can't be part of this, I need to rest, that's more than just self-care. That's a structural way that a group body must attend to the precious medicine of human resources. Fortunately for us, this can be fun. And in fact, I would like to say that if it is not fun, it is going to be hard, even harder. So playing, the ability to play and be creative and have a sense of humor, and even the trickster in us is, boy, it makes it all so much more palpable and interesting and really truly blessed. So that we don't have to turn all of this into work. Because it's not our job to be worked on, it's our job to be a blessing and to be blessed. So play is the way. The InterPlay warm-up holds most of these four elements in the movement. So to help us be grounded and to breathe, to call back our energy, to move our energy, and to find our own bodies again, to protect ourselves. And numerous times I've used along my path, and still do for myself, the warm-up as the location where I'm remembering and reminding my body spirit of these things. And I love it that others are doing that secretly, unconsciously, or consciously. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a 7-minute InterPlay warm-up. And we're going to just have the experience of what happens in our bodies, and as we just shift our energies and attune to them and bless them. And I may speak during this, but probably not too much. If I stop the warm-up, it might just to guide you a little bit about the specifics of these four things. So let's try this together. I'm going to give us some music as soon as I find my music. I'm using a piece of music from the album by David and Stephen Gordon called Drum Medicine, and it's a piece called Spirit Walk. And let's see, if you can't hear this music, you can always just turn your sound down, you know, if there's any disruption in the music quality that is hard for you and your, you know, hearing sensitivity. All right. So we're going to take some deep breaths and shake a little bit. And twist. Twisting, we are taking our own space and moving our own energy in this little washing machine. Good, and shake an arm. Shake your other arm. Shake legs. Shake your middle. Shake your voice. Good. Deep breath. Reaching up and down on one side and the other. We're grounding above and below and open into your space. And wrap. We're going to drop over and let go. Blessing the earth and rolling up. And again. Opening. Good. And come through your chest and heart. Opening to the front of you and pulling back into your back. And again, one more time. Opening. And pulling back. Good. And squirm. Just let yourself squirm. Moving your energies. Just letting them move. Good. And twist around your spine. Good, and drop down into your hips, rocking your hips. Now here we are in grounding, really grounding from the hips. Having that hip area. Take your hips around in a big circle. Good, and going the other way. In any way you want to. And come down your legs and knead your feet in the floor. Feeling those channels down there. Let yourself do a little foot blessing, playing into your feet. Just shake yourself around. Taking a deep breath. And again. So that so far is about 5 minutes, and what we've been doing there is grounding and blessing and letting the energies in the body move, quite simply. The next thing we're going to do is the little series of 4 movement patterns, and we go through swing. And during swing, we start to clear and move energy out of our body. So part of being gifted and sensitive is really trying to understand that a lot of what's in our bodies is not our own.
That's for sure.
Right? So we're feeling the suffering and the joy sometimes, and just the fullness of what's around us. Our mirror neurons are really alive to the world, very tuned in. And so we want to move energy off of our system, and we need the imagination, and we need to really see this as a choice to move things off. So that's the swinging and a bit of the thrusting, or I even like to, these days, thrust out joy, because it's not so much just the anger, but it's really letting the fullness of my system, whoosh, you know, come forward, come all the way forward. It gets stopped up, the joy itself. So that's that part, and then we'll move into the slow and smooth. And during that slow, smooth part, that's really an invitation to my body to pull my energies back, come back right here. And then at the end, the shape and stillness is for me a place of like centering in my body and my space, and holding and being in that space in a reverent way, joyfully, just me. Which I will talk a little bit more about protection, but that place, just abiding in it, coming back to it, is kind of always the thing we need. Anything you need at that point to, you know, we're just taking 2 minutes here for that, this whole little bit to pass through. But anything you need along the way, you know, please feel free to notice that and go there. All right. So we're going to start with swinging and the clearing, and then coming back into gathering. Here we go. Swinging. Don't have to know what you're clearing. Just let things go. Whoosh. Good, and really sending out some energy or joy or clarity. Whoosh. Ha. Whoosh. Good. When you're ready, you can just grab hold of your muscles, little pulling, welcoming back your energy from the projects, people, places you've been. And begin to find some shapes, just being inside yourself, breathing into your bones, into your soul. And particularly now, just connecting your own still place to your highest good, to the one who loves you, that holds you here. And bringing your hands back to your body. Taking a deep breath. Beautiful. I'd like to give you maybe 2 minutes. If there's anything you want to notice or claim for yourself about, being gifted or sensitive, and what you're noticing through this little warm-up practice, we'll take a moment just to write that in the chat box. Thank you all. I've unmuted you, so if you'd like to remute yourself by your own choice, you can do that. I'm going to be just reflecting a little bit more on what is the path of being gifted and sensitive. The word protection came up early. Came up early in my life experience, as probably it did for you. Without it, much like being an artist, to be gifted and sensitive wasn't being named. And in my suburban public high school United Methodist Church experience, although I saw a lot of really weird people in the narrative of my tradition. It's like, okay, I know something's going on here, but it seemed quite other. And it wasn't certainly part of our domain, except for people prayed. So there was something going on, right? But the not realizing that I would get really flooded really fast sometimes. And the intensity of my self-regulation was so challenged. I mean, very hard to self-regulate. In fact, I take care of my ongoing self-regulation challenge by going to Al-Anon and being in other therapies, just so that I can attend to that. It does become a problem and a pattern, and it runs right through my family. Are addicts gifted and sensitive, right? We tend to be depressed or really high, or looking for something that's self-soothing and makes us feel better. It's an interesting question. When I track my roots of my family tree through the narratives of addiction, I wind up seeing also a lot of highly sensitive people who wind up being ministers, or literally my one great grandfather, Hiram. The last thing that was ever mentioned about him in the news was that he was standing by the railroad track off in Kansas, giving long distance healings at the age of 80. I like Hiram. I'm so happy that got in the news. It was probably because he was weird, but I'm like going so grateful. my family. Yeah, so protection and like figuring out how to manage and self-regulate. I think that for gifted and sensitives, this is number 2, really, in addition to the practices of bringing ourselves back and constantly taking care, we are going through initiations. That's what I like to call the troubles, the learnings. How do I manage this? What is this? Where do I go with it? And if you have ever had a religious experience or a theophany, an experience of God or of deep abiding peace that didn't seem to come from you, learning to manage also voices, senses, seeing, hearing, presencing, images, apparitions, feeling blessed, guided, very real realms that don't seem to belong to this world. These kinds of sensitivities require special guidance, because now you're not only managing what the world says you should manage, but you're managing both the intensity, but the complexity of relationships on more than one level. Initiations. I would just like us to simply go back and remember that times where we've had to learn, those were initiations. They were often not mentored by one person or in a community even, but we've been initiated, many of us, if we survive them. And initiations should receive ceremonies, and we should be celebrated for having gone through them. So the whole thing of being credentialed, and as one who has been initiated in the realm of being gifted and sensitive, is something that we struggle and strive for as people, as gifted and sensitive people. A lot of times we turn to schools to do that, very expensive programs, and whether or not those places give us the actual blessing, they do credential us. And it's partially good to have the credential. We need it to have been authorized and acknowledged for what we're tending and what we're offering. Initiations also align with purpose and clarity of purpose. So those of us who are gifted and sensitive, it is even more important that we divine our purpose and that we get support and help to do so. And many of us have been on that path. What am I here to do? How am I supposed to serve? What is this supposed to be? And the good news, which I've learned myself and that I teach in the divining purpose work that I do, is that your purpose is already in you. It's not invisible and it's not working. Yay! Purpose is in you. You are here on purpose. And you don't have to get it clear. In fact, if you get it clear, you'll have to definitely go through the initiations that it takes to be here with your purpose. It's like a superpower to clarify one's vision or one's purpose. My purpose is to foster freedom for myself and others. And this is one of the reasons why I'm now an activist, because freedom isn't just the personal, imminent, transcendent, it's the collective body, reflecting back and supporting the freedom of beings to really be blessed. So, I have to keep learning always because I'm in the dominant culture as a white person. Obviously, the initiations and purpose, I see them in 5 big areas that we are being initiated in the nature of our own innate character strengths and limits, what some programs call defects. But I like to call them just the limits, right? And when you receive this document afterwards, or if you're in the group afterwards, we can look at the question of the limits. I've written down, some inventories that I've collected in here that you can kind of just see the numbers of inventories that people offer to help us articulate and be guided around how are we doing in terms of our learning around our own nature, our human nature. We are secondly initiated around the nature of our purpose and how to hold our purpose. We are, number 3, initiated around the nature of our connection with land and family. So the nature of place and peoples, and how is our relationship to work. We are 4th initiated around communities, nations, and the planetary, the big picture. I would just call it the big picture, the earth, the big human communities. And then 5th, the nature of power. I think is a huge initiation. How do we tend to our learnings and presence with the nature of power and a power greater than ourselves? Great power. So these are really big, and it kind of breaks out in all sorts of directions. It's like, wow, we should definitely get credit, you guys. I mean, this is like this is a big, fat learning, and many of us are doing it, have done it. We're a little wrecked sometimes. We feel like, oh my God, we're failures, because initiations are not just like initiations into success and higher status and glory. Initiations are also like, geez, really humility. Whoa, limits. Capacity and a sense of capacity, but then really realizing, which is my realization, really, I'm a little flower. And I feel like that's my goal, to keep tending the garden of this medicine. So, initiations and purpose. You have been initiated. So I'd like for you, if you're willing, to write in the chat box, maybe 1 or 2, times where you remember, or it could be even recently, what are you being initiated in? What are you training in right now? What is your focus of your learning, and, are you through it? Have you just come through an initiation? I know that I am beginning an initiation process for a new stage of life. And I'm listening intently to what is the energies of being 63 and really definitely now fully in my eldering, having my parents deceased. This is learning time. I'm being initiated. So would you write in the chat box maybe something that you have been initiated in, or an initiation you're in right now? Thank you. Feel free to continue to add things there even while I'm talking. Yeah, actually so many. And it's probably good to keep our easy focus, because if you're gifted and sensitive like me, it's like I start to look at something and then I attune to it. And then I am it. It's just crazy. So bring your fingers up in the air and do this with your fingers. So anytime your whole body kind of goes into a seize, like a little seizure of attention, I've been finding that just moving my fingers a little bit changes the energy. It's so wonderful how our physicality can shift, and we can play between our states and trances with a little bit of physical shift or attention. So, yeah, those are beautiful. I've, I think it's really important. This is the third and fourth part, really, of being gifted and sensitive, is to affirm your gifts and have other people affirm them. And this is maybe some of the most challenging work. I can't tell you how far I had to go outside of seminary to have somebody say the words, psychic. You're a psychic. And then I gathered a group of people from the seminary and we went off down the road 2 hours away to have times on a monthly basis for 5 years so we could attend to what were these gifts and how do we use them. It's like, oh my gosh. And yet, these are the same people that would be potentially tending congregations or attending others, and they're picking up way so much energy and having to process also attunements to lineage and different like past lives, different whole different realms of experience that don't get talked about, just sort of get mentioned in books and lectures. So I wonder, if you would be willing right now, my little pretties, to say what your gifts are, and they could be really simple gifts like I love to dance. I hear voices. That's not so simple, but I do. So, I welcome if any gifts that you'd like to mention, just we'll put them in the chat box. And we're going to just do a little dance of blessing over these gifts. Let me know if you're not hearing me. Just write that in the chat box. You've lost your hearing, Dixie? Has anybody else lost hearing? Dixie, you might need to go on and come back off. Oh, you can't chat. Okay, you can come on and speak into the room if you want to. Got it. Write notes and hold them up. Hang on, Dixie.
Trickster and community. Thank you. It makes me want to cry.
Trickster and community. And was there another one?
No, just makes me want to cry.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to just read some of these off as they come up so that the people who are receiving this recording can see and hear as well. The gift of prophecy, empathy, grace, humor. I hear, feel, and see the rocks, stars, moon, Mother Earth, people, animals. My gift is I'm persistent in pursuing what I love. I feel energy, especially through my hands, forearms, and through my core. It feels relevant to people. Humor, dance, sensitivity, voice, asking, community, yes. Caring, noticing, everything, sensing, hearing. My gifts, strong intuition, love people as they are, usually. Strength, courage, networker, bring people together and share information and resources, channeler. I can invite people to come out of linear time and into the moment to celebrate being here together. Humor, thankfully. I love truly being in the moment with people of any age, and especially those without memory or complete brain capacity. What is complete brain capacity? Sublime sense, truly helping. Cooking, high levels of sensing the needs and what needs to be done. Images, persistence and long suffering. Presence and connection. Were there any that I missed? That I didn't catch there? Yeah, presence is a huge gift, and learning how to be non-anxious and to have the abiding connectedness with the earth, all that are on the earth, and particularly with the divine intelligence. I've learned that, like in my little body, and these gifts that I'm telling and just doing what I'm doing here is of service, and it's definitely a value, one of the things that I'm here to do. But there's a greater gift that I have that isn't me alone, but it's my connection. Cultivating my divine connection, presencing it, and just bringing it into the room and into the space with a sense of assurance and ease. There's no greater gift than that. I've learned. Probably some of you are in this call for that very reason, not so much for my information alone, but it's, because I'm presencing that. And I keep learning maybe it's an elder learning that how important that is, that I could pray for others, how important it is that I can companion others, and that I don't need to be better, wiser, more improved. The real gift is my connection, and that's a gift that's given to me, and it's been given in the context of being gifted and sensitive. I want to just take a little mini 1-minute detour for the 4 out of 5 who are not so-called gifted and sensitive. Anybody can become gifted and sensitive at any time. A transition, a tragedy, a life-altering event can change your nervous system, change your context, change your way of seeing. You can become gifted and sensitive at any time. You can come in and you can go out. So everybody who has a heightened experience has an experience of being gifted and sensitive. And for that reason, they need those who walk the long path of sensitivity even more. How do I do this? How do I deal with complexity? How do I stay connected? What do I do with my world now that I've got all these acquisitions and I'm doing what the world says, or I'm not doing what the world says, which is I would call the alternate path, of initiation, where you refuse to do any of it. All socializations. These are all socializations and choices. So, the 4 out of 5. We're really designed as a species, the 1 in 5, on behalf of the 4 in 5. We're here for them. And it's very important then that we bring our highest sense of loving and presencing, that we take care of ourselves in relationship to their confusion and difficulties, that we don't overcare for them, and we even leave them alone, when they don't need us. Not everybody is like us. Not everybody needs this. When they do need it, usually times of initiation, births, deaths, tragedies, awakenings, then we can be there. So credentials. I've written myself credentials in groups. I've had us credential each other. We're going to just to end here, kind of do a blessing, if not a credentialing of one another. We'll take 30 seconds of silence, and then I'm going to ask us to raise our hand in the air to connect to our divine intelligence and to let the hand move, connect, play, dance into the circle of this wonderful collection of human beings, gifted and sensitives. So we'll take a moment to presence, and then we'll raise our hands to the blessing. And let's just bring the word blessing as a chant or a repetition into the space, saying that to each other. Blessing. Blessings.
Bless.
Blessing. Bless you. Blessing ourselves in this circle, taking in the blessing, and taking a deep breath together. Blessed are we, gifted and sensitive, and learning and growing little in our lives, right on the planet in the humility, and great in the connection. I pray for our support and guidance and our work, that we can grow in assurance and grow in the ability to see one another and to affirm each other, especially when we're irritable, tired, and overwhelmed. Let us take time for that. So take a deep breath. Thank you. I will just remind you that at 10:15, in a few minutes, I'm gonna close the this room, but at 10:15 we'll start. Those of you who want to talk and press what it is specifically you are curious about, and I'll offer a few more skills in the group from 10:15 to 11:30. If you want to look at this more individually, I can be employed, to do that with you, and look forward to that. And I'm also interested in teaching and sharing, an outlines, simple outline for teaching a 4-week class or a workshop, and also how to teach this with some core teachings for kids and parents. And thank you, Catherine. I really do think that we want to teach this stuff at an earlier age. So great to see you all. And you can stay on here if you are meaning to continue. And we'll just close the meeting now. Thank you so much. Many blessings.